Let's talk about one of the easiest breakfasts around, overnight oats. But, there's a fine line between creamy perfection and, well, a gluey mess. So today, we're gonna nail it. I'm gonna show you a super simple, precise method to get that amazing, spoonable texture so you never have to deal with pasty oats again. Okay, so you know what I'm talking about, right? On the left, that's the common failure. It's dense, it's mushy, it's just glue. But on the right, that's our goal. See how it's creamy and you can still see the individual oats? It's tender, it's spoonable, not a solid brick. Getting from the left to the right is all about a few critical but really simple details. All right, so before we even think about mixing, we have to get our foundation right. Getting perfect overnight oats really starts with picking the right stuff. And don't worry, this isn't about fancy equipment or anything. It's just about using the correct basics for the job. And here's everything you need for one serving. I mean, look how simple this is. It's just a half cup of rolled oats, half cup of milk or yogurt, a quarter cup of water, and a tiny pinch of salt. And for your tools, you just need a jar or a bowl. That's it. Now, if there's one thing you remember, make it this. The type of oat you use is absolutely the most important choice here. You have to use rolled oats, which you might also see called old-fashioned oats. It's all about the texture. These oats are whole, so they can soften up overnight but still keep a little bit of a satisfying chew. And that brings us to the number one mistake people make. Do not use quick oats or instant oats. They're cut up into smaller pieces and they're just too delicate. They completely break down when you soak them and you end up with that mushy paste instead of something creamy. So the main takeaway? Just stick with rolled oats, for real. The whole process is actually beautiful in its simplicity. We can just break it all down into two main parts. First, we mix, then we let it rest. And that resting period, that's where the magic really happens. Let's get into it. Seriously, it could not be simpler. First, we're gonna mix the base. Second, we're just gonna let it rest and hydrate. Keeping these two things separate, mixing, then resting, that is the secret to getting that perfect final texture. So let's kick off step one, mixing the base. Just go ahead and put everything, your half cup of oats, half cup of milk, quarter cup of water, and that pinch of salt right into your jar. We're getting the hydration process started. Okay, now it's time to stir. And don't just give it a quick little swirl. You want to stir it really thoroughly. This is super important because you need to make sure every single oat gets coated in that liquid. You'll know you're done when it looks pretty soupy and all the oats are completely submerged. No dry clumps allowed. So, take a look at your mixture. It should look really wet. You might even be thinking, whoa, did I add too much water? That's a great question. And the answer is almost definitely nope. It's supposed to look like that. And this is where another common mistake happens. A lot of people see how soupy it looks and they get nervous, so they don't add enough liquid. But you have to remember, those oats are like tiny, thirsty sponges. They're gonna soak all that liquid up. If you start with too little, you're guaranteed to get dry, dense oats. So, trust the soup. And now for step two, the easy part. Just cover up your jar or bowl and pop it in the fridge. This is the beginning of that all-important, totally hands-off resting phase. Pay attention because this might just be the most crucial instruction of the whole process. Once that jar is in the fridge, do not stir it. I'm serious. Don't touch it again until you're ready to eat. If you stir it while it's hydrating, you're just breaking down the oats and creating that gluey texture we're trying to avoid. Leaving them alone is the secret. So, the big question, how long do they need to chill out in the fridge? Well, the absolute minimum is 4 hours. That's when they'll be tender enough to eat. But for that ideal, super creamy texture, you really want to let them go for at least 8 hours. Or even easier, just let them sit overnight. All right, after a good long rest, it's time for the final step. This is where we take those hydrated oats and turn them into a delicious, finished breakfast. This is where it all comes together. Okay, so you've just pulled the jar out of the fridge. Your very first move is to finally give it a stir. It might look a little bit separated, maybe with some liquid sitting on top. That's totally fine. This final stir is what brings it all together, creating that amazing, signature creamy consistency. Now here's where you get to customize. Take a look. If it seems a little thicker than you'd like, this is the time to fix it. Just add a little splash of milk and stir it in until the texture is exactly what you want. You're in complete control here.
And of course, the last thing to do before you dig in is add your toppings. This is the fun part where you add all the flavor and texture. Maybe a little honey or maple syrup, some fresh fruit, a sprinkle of nuts for that crunch, whatever you like.
Okay, so you've followed all the steps, you've been patient. How can you be 100% sure you've reached overnight oat perfection? Well, there's one last little check to confirm you did it. Here it is, your final check. Just take a spoonful. The oats should look plump, totally swollen with liquid, and when you taste them, they should be completely tender, almost melting in your mouth. But most importantly, there should be absolutely no crunchy or hard bits left. If that's what you've got, you've totally nailed it.
And that's all there is to it. A completely foolproof method for perfect, creamy overnight oats every single time. Now that you've got the technique down, the only question left is, how are you going to customize yours?